Alright, I just finished watching the movie Emergency, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why so many people were complaining about this film. It seems to run neutral to me. Hello there, namaste. So I finally checked out the apparently controversial film Emergency. The incidents that take place under the leadership of Miss Indira Gandhi, one of the most powerful women in Indian history. So this film basically starts off with introducing Indira as basically a child who's seen as ugly, whose mother is belittled by her own aunt, or her mother's sister, her aunt, you know what I mean. She's basically a timid character, and she receives no love from her father. Her mother is basically a punching bag. Her aunt doesn't care for her. Her grandfather basically tells her a story about grasping power, and then it skips to the future where she's basically in the political landscape. She's doing all this stuff for the nation. You know, she's going out to help the people on the ground. She's one of those that could go and be on the ground and people will feel for her. And I gotta say, for the majority of the, well, I guess the first 30 minutes of the film, it introduces her and she slowly gets power. Apparently there are these other films that kind of go on like side stories, because it's like there's the prime minister who died way too quickly right before her. There is the nuclear bomb. Like all these stories that they reference really quickly all have like their own film that can go with it. I gotta say, I was in complete agreement with how she was. She was way too timid for the seat she was holding. It felt like she was too weak and she was more of a puppet. And it seemed like most people wanted her there as a puppet. And I was kind of aggravated because she was talking like, what is it, Shy Ron from Lonely Island? I mean, it was just like, dude, I don't understand you. Every time she'd open her mouth, it'd remind me of Shy Ron. The entire time. And it was just like, no one in the bank can hear you. Like, come on, speak! You're a leader of a nation. Open your mouth. But eventually she finally stands up for herself and what she believes in. And I gotta say, I felt for her in that moment. I felt for her when she was going against Nixon. I felt for her when she was going against the leader of France. I felt for her when she was meeting them all and talking back to them all. I liked it. Even though she was still a little timid while in those discussions, she didn't show much of a backbone. She was like hunched over, talking timidly, but what she was saying had strength. It felt very conflicting for me, because I'm like, I hear what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying, but the visuals don't show me that you believe what you're saying. So after I agreed with her and I liked her and everything, but I didn't like her at the same time because she was too timid. It's just like, if you're the leader of a nation, have a spine. But eventually, she ended up loving the praise she got. When she finally started vocalizing what she felt and what she wanted, people loved it. When she finally started acting upon that stuff, and it seemed like what she wanted was to be known as the one who ended the however long the war, you know, the tariff with Pakistan has been going on. She wanted to be known as the one who finally finished the battle. But in my mind, I'm like, even I on the outside, if you're constantly being invaded and attacked and attacked and attacked and attacked, if you relinquish, if you give a mouse a cookie, they're gonna ask for a glass of milk. Just that. She was never read, you know, nursery rhymes as a child, apparently. But then again, she was neglected as a child. So it makes sense that she never heard those stories. You have to conquer for them to relinquish. And in this situation, she basically like, oh, I want peace. I'm gonna be a pacifist. I'll give you all this. It's all yours. This contested territory, which is still contested to this day now because I'm doing this action. So that's where basically she fell apart. She didn't like the criticism she got. So that's what basically leads to the emergency. And it's funny because she's introduced as like, there are a lot of red flags that introduce that she has issues. She has like an emotional cord that she has problems with. She has a son who's a complete awful human being. He's an awful human being, but she can't see it because she's a mother, and that's the issue. There always has to be, like, that's why there are two. There's a man and a woman. The women are supposed to be the nurturing, the caring. The man is supposed to be the disciplinarian. Sometimes they overlap. It's good to have a bit of overlap, but in this one, she couldn't do anything. She was like, oh no, he's whining about an egg. He breaks a plate. He's an adult at this point in time. I'm gonna talk to the cook and blame the cook. You should know better at this point. But the main issue was, it's just she got so used to hearing the praise that when she started hearing the negativity and the fact that everyone in the cabinet, everyone wanted her out because she had given away their land. She was basically against India at that point on. She didn't like hearing that kind of stuff. So, well, she declared martial law. She went into emergency state. And in her mind, her son can do no wrong, that her son starts actually getting power during the emergency, starts making up his own laws in his mother's name, and like, oh, let's do this, let's do this. It has many people eradicated, has many people, well, yeah, clipped, let's just say that, like people do with stray dogs. He was treating like the populace as strays. It was just, there were so many things that he put into effect, and she was just okay with it. She was okay with it. She was okay with it. One thing I didn't like was there's like this scene where she's dreaming and then she sees her reflection and then she starts seeing her reflect. We didn't need that. I could tell she was going insane around the time where the Bengal leaders were killed. You could tell she was losing her mind at that point in time. You could tell she was getting unsettled. You could tell all that stuff was already bothering her. And then they start showing like the actual facsimile that she sees in the mirror. And I'm like, you didn't need that. You were doing such a good job making her break down psychologically on her own. The fact that she was trusting her idiotic son to take control just proved how gone she was. And then they show us her reflection. I'm like, that's a little much. In the end, she leaves office and, well, the state of emergency was put into effect because she was emotional and afraid. What would happen if I did something to just a group of people because I was emotional and afraid? Well, I would get punished for it. So she rightfully was imprisoned for what she did to an entire nation. To an entire nation. She was rightfully put in prison. And it's just like, in my mind, I'm like, that makes sense. So, in the beginning, they show us what good she did, like her positives and how she developed her character even though she was weak at the same time. It was very conflicting for me to watch, but you could see what good she did. And then she becomes psychotic. And then she pays for the crime she did. She didn't pay enough because, well, the millions of people that were snipped and whatever they did to them, the people that died during the, eviction from Delhi, all that stuff that they had done. Of course, the majority of it was the son's call, allegedly, I'm gonna say, because, well, they're just allegedly. The thing I find aggravating is like, it's the same thing everywhere. Every nation, no matter what. She gets out of prison and immediately everyone forgets about her crimes. She only served like what, 2 years in prison for her crime towards, well, billions? Her crime towards billions and leading to the death of like about 1 million people. And she's just, oh, served 2 years. You're good to go. You're good to go. And then everyone forgets everything she's done. And it's like, I'm okay with that, but the problem is, like, there are these stories where you learn, like, okay, this person is a good front person. They're good, they are emotional, they know how to reach the hearts of people. They do not belong in an office space. They do not. They belong in with the people. And that's what I thought it was going to lead to, but no. No. She starts running for prime minister yet again. And, of course, people's brains are so small, everyone's cheering for her, and she gets reelected. Of course, her son at that point in time, during the 2 years or however long she was in prison, during all this stuff, he has his own political, focus. He enjoyed the power he got, that he's really focused for it. So when his mommy, starts running once again, she starts realizing how much of a threat he is, and he ends up dying in a plane crash. I'm doing that because, to me, it looked like she was taking out the garbage. She didn't have the heart to do it herself or to say anything, but like most people, I realized a lot of people just don't say anything. They're just like, oh, Someone has something to tell you because I'm too afraid to tell you this. That kind of talk like happened at the very beginning of the film. He ends up dying, and the opposing party comes to her and is just like, we're here with you in this time of sorrow. And then she's basically like, sorrowful for who? Because she's won the sympathy vote. Her son died, and he was a monster to everyone. Everyone hated him because I do believe that she would have painted him. She's a politician. She's a politician, and all politicians are the same. If they find something as a part of them that they can remove as like an infection, you take all the heat for the emergency. I'll cut you loose, and I'll be clean. So, he's gone. And then it leads into the end of the film, which is funny because her son had this militant Sikh leader released from prison, and then she ends up having to have him executed, which leads to like the Sikh community that's like more militant to hate her. And the one thing I didn't like was she has like 2 Sikh guards, which end up, ending her life. And I'm like, did she only have those 2 Sikh guards? Were there more? If there were more, at least show one other. It's a film. Show one other, because not all of them would want her dead. No, because she was like, this is the one thing I like, because that's what I mean is like, I don't know how people are like, oh, this is a propaganda. You're supposed to, it's made by the opposing party. I liked her. I liked her. I didn't like her in the beginning. And then I did like her in the beginning, but she was weak. And then I hated her because she became too emotional in her political post. She got rid of the rot, which was her son, that emotional crutch. And then she started doing what needed to be done. Eradicating those that needed to be eradicated. Of course, I might be ended for saying something like that. But I really wish that there was like another one there to show that, oh, they aren't all evil. That's one thing I don't like, is when they try to paint someone in a bad light. They don't show like any of the good that are in a certain community. They just try to paint them all with the same brush. That's good for stereotypical jokes, okay? You could do that with sarcasm. You can't do that when you're trying to talk about something that's deals with death or slaughter or things like that. It becomes very troublesome at that point in time. You have to show both sides. In the end, it just made me feel like, why didn't she run a background check on these people? They're Sikhs. You could easily run a background check and find out who... Oh, well, wait a minute. It was the 70s, late 70s? Yeah, it probably wouldn't have been easy to run a background check in India. Never mind. She was just, being trustworthy. She was weak. She was timid, but she knew how to vocalize what she truly felt inside, even though her actions didn't show it. She ended up going too far emotionally, losing herself, destroying, keeping the entire nation imprisoned, paying for her crimes in jail, coming out and basically having like a redemption arc, going back and doing what was necessary. It's like, how could you say this is from the opposing party? It just seems like an actress was doing her job. It just seems like someone was playing the role that they were given to. It seems like the book was written by someone who wanted to capture who she was. And I gotta say, I thought this was very well done. In the end, I did actually enjoy this film. It actually taught me a lot. It made me actually want to see the story about the politician, the prime minister that died before Indira Gandhi. It made me want to see the story about like the nuke that was dropped, or the nukes because they were making nukes. It made me want to see the story, the movie basically about how Bangladesh was freed. I kind of want to see all those. They all have basically their own separate movies. There's so many separate movies that could be watched to get more details from this. But it's all done under her reign, which is one thing I enjoy, or in between her reign. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.
You guys got a video? It's so bad.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait, like that.